New video on Hanwha Bada shooting surfaces. Port Moresby market vendors speak of police brutality. And government committed to ensuring key infrastructure completed.
This is National MTV News with Mary Bartolo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Wednesday's news. Never before seen amateur footage of the Hanwha shooting has come to light nearly 1 year after the incident. It shows armed policemen in uniform blocking the road, gunshots can be heard, and the two victims after they were shot surrounded by helpless villagers.
This video was never been shared before. It shows a white-tinted Land Cruiser parked. Behind it, armed men in what appears to be police uniforms stood. Sticks, stones and roofing iron lying everywhere as the sign of a roadblock and people shouting at the police. From the voices heard, you can sense anger and hatred from the villagers. All of a sudden, gunshots were fired. From the video, more than 10 shots were fired. People were looking for safe places to hide. Some of them ran into the sea. After the police left, mothers, children, elders and mostly the youth at Hanuabada gathered around the two victims. They are 36-year-old late Nicholas Rarua and 29-year-old Toka Gaudi. The video shows villagers stood applying pressure to the two men's gunshot wounds. One was shot from behind and the other was shot through his stomach. However, from initial police reports presented in May this year, the bullet fragment removed from late Nicholas was never connected to any police firearm that was tested. But one of the empty shells retrieved from the crime scene matches to a firearm allocated to Hola Police. Also from findings, 6 police units were involved in the incident, including the NCDC reservist unit. 9 months after the shooting in January, a new investigation team was appointed and pledged to arrest officers involved in the shooting by end of this year. This has not happened. Vasinata Yama, National MTV News.
6 Mile market vendors in Port Moresby are calling on NCD governor and the police hierarchy to confirm if there are laws to confiscate cigarette packets from street and market vendors. Unhappy vendors told MTV News over 3,000 kina worth of cigarette packets and private property were taken by policemen this week. Vendors were assaulted, taken away, stripped and asked to perform sexual acts on each other.
The work of rogue police officers is becoming a great concern for 6 Mile residents in Port Moresby. Vendors at the 6 Mile market were robbed by a police unit yesterday at 10 a.m. Silas Anguna questioned if there are laws for policemen to perform such duties.
I'm law. Only suppose I'm law. Okay, me no can sell him this law because me no wasting big money na buy him this law something. So suppose post pago by stop smoke. Okay, me no can sell him this law smoke.
These vendors, most of whom support their families by selling cigarettes, are now fearing rogue policemen more than criminals.
Police suppose look at him, government put him look at him. Why na bagra me play knows no got time. All money got boy get guilty so only arrest him like him boy blow na why na make him anything under blow people blow. Papa ni
Ronnie Kamba and 3 other youths were physically assaulted and taken to Dogura outside Port Moresby, where they were stripped, searched and asked to all each other's private parts.
Nala policeman terap na him talk you only man. Slam wala one me stop or slam me fall to ya me talk.
I got low pause you put him bisla kay lolo. Chegi mol meri kaino se mol man but chegi mol brab mol meri number na rausi mani yo.
6 Mile community leaders are calling on the police hierarchy to come down hard and address such behavior by rogue policemen.
So please, this la issue here, it's a disease now. So you don't like it also all police brutality, carry come to level. Please, you don't like him by addressing this issue.
Only a handful of vendors recouped personal belongings at the Boroko police station yesterday, while others are still waiting. Formal complaints have been laid at the Boroko police station. NCDC police boss Ben Turi was unavailable to comment on the matter. Jack Lapava Jr., National MTV News.
Prime Minister Peter ONeill says Papua New Guinea is a land of opportunity and responsibility. As the country's chief executive, he wants to see change in the coming years, a government that is more responsible in bringing change. As the new year is approaching, mandated leaders must take ownership in advancing this nation.
The national government is committed to improve its service delivery mechanism with more focus on infrastructure development. Other renewable sectors are also important that can generate income capita for every Papua New Guinean. Resources will be explored to generate more opportunities for wealth in agriculture, marine, downstream processing for exports, development of a petrochemical industry, and processing sites for fish and other agricultural exports. Education and health will remain a priority with law and order a focus. New disciplinary policies and structure to restore the police constabulary and one of them one strike and you are out policy. The Prime Minister said all eyes will be on PNG as host to major international events. In 2016, the Africa, Caribbean and Pacific Leaders Meeting, FIFA Women's Under-20 World Cup and the 2018 APEC Summit. Mr. ONeill says all this will be implemented under the Yellow Tower Code for unity, hope, stability and prosperity. Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News.
The Farmers and Settlers Association has called on the Agriculture and Livestock Department with its commodity agencies to be proactive in 2016. The association expressed concern over the government's lack of commitment to the agriculture sector. In a statement released this afternoon, Association President Wilson Thompson said the department and management of commodity boards such as the CIC must ensure the agriculture sector progresses and delivers results. Mr. Thompson said that the association was concerned about lack of markets and farmers' outlets. As a lead-up to the 2016 Leadership Summit, the government is carrying out inspections on key infrastructure developments throughout the country. Led by Deputy Secretary Policy of the Prime Minister's Department, Trevor Meauri, the inspections will be consolidated into a report that will be presented during the Leadership Summit next February.
The national government is keen on seeing major developments throughout the country delivered on time and of the absolute quality for the people of Papua New Guinea. Deputy Secretary Meauri, who is responsible to oversee all government projects, says the inspections are to see the progress of these developments.
Our job is to basically ensure that the Prime Minister is on top of all these infrastructure projects right across the country. And we assist the Prime Minister in making sure that we visit all those infrastructure projects and basically keep the contractors on their toes and making sure that we speed up those construction work on those infrastructure projects. That's basically what we want to do, and we've been doing that over the last 3 years.
Meauri stressed the importance of these key infrastructure developments and says the government led by Prime Minister Peter ONeill is committed to deliver. He says despite the drop in revenue, the government's budget remains steady and is focused in developing key infrastructure areas such as roads, education and health, plus other key development areas.
The funding levels to those priority areas in health, education, law and order, infrastructure still remains. Government still maintaining their commitment in funding all those priority areas. And that's something that this government will never deviate from.
The inspections currently underway have started in the autonomous region of Bougainville and yesterday the New Island province, where road projects were inspected. Meauri says once the inspections are complete, a final report will be submitted to the Prime Minister and will be presented during the 2016 Leadership Summit, where the country can be informed on the progress of development throughout the country.
DSIP has done a significant amount of development in a lot of districts, but we are not seeing the results of it. It's not coming out to the public very clearly so people understand that development is taking place in those districts.
Prime Minister Peter ONeill carried out similar inspections early this year, where he drove by a car from Mendy's Southern Highlands province to Ley in the Moresby province to inspect the Highlands Highway. Stanley Over Jr., National MTV News.
More than 300 displaced residents living in makeshift tents near the Hanwha Works compound at the Baroko area in Port Moresby have been affected by the continuous rain. Many of them have had to forcefully skip work today after the rain swept through their homes, soaking their clothes, beddings and other necessities. Eric Harupma has been following this story.
The displaced residents living near Hanwha compound after their eviction by police in August this year have been affected by the flooding rainwater.
Now, all the man marry lawyer or stop. All the line or sleep inside lawyer. And all the workman belong inside of this lab.
Nina Kama, one of the displaced residents who is currently working with Edaranu, said he was forced to skip work because his uniforms, beddings and other goods are wet.
Some workman told no go work, people got stop outside. So I'm just affecting the pay, blah, or some time. Don't know good pay because we don't know good lab now.
Another resident, Tony Gal, a teacher by profession for 39 years, said the situation they are in is inhuman.
To date, the settlers here evicted, displaced settlers are now straight in a kind of a weather right now. Look at all this, makeshifts here. How long we going to continue residing here? This is not all. We are living in the nation's capital.
Residents said living in makeshift tents during rainy season in dreadful places along the stormwater drainage posed a health hazard for them.
Mama, me stop inside lo yellow for my lo evicted area. Now rain come down. All get a have me plus sleep. Me plus no sleep lo good plus house. Me plus sleep lo canvas house. Half of our things are wet. Our children's clothes, our kitchen things, and everything.
With a population of over 300 people living in makeshift tents, the probability of contracting contagious diseases is very high.
Talk strong lo. Surits 5 lo me plan a triple drain. Stop close to where me plus sleep longen. Na me plan lose him 2 pla life in his. Papa blo me them die lo this la hap. Na 1 pla baby nephew bla boo blo me die too. Many of
them are public servants and employees of companies who had contributed to the economic development of this nation. They are demanding a swift intervention by the government, local MP Labi Amayu and Governor Proes Pakop to rectify this matter. Eric Harupman, National MTV News.
You're with National MTV News. Calls to reflect on 2015 and views on corruption and ill discipline in our security forces. That and more after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Newly elected Hela Governor Francis Potape says the Assembly's decision is for the good of Hela people. Governor Potape said all current projects and decisions by the dismissed Governor Anderson Agiru will not be altered. The Komo Magarima MP was sworn in yesterday in a Provincial Assembly meeting after a motion to unseat Anderson Agiru was moved last week in Tari.
After the 7 days elapsed on a motion under Section 20A and B of the Organic Law to dismiss Hela Governor Anderson Agiru, the Hela Provincial Assembly members voted Komo Magarima MP Francis Potape as the second governor in the history of Hela Province.
I will well and truly serve the independent state of Papua New Guinea and its people in the office of the governor of Hela Province.
Yesterday, formal processes were carried out under the supervision of Senior Hela Provincial Magistrate Vincent Eralia. Newly sworn-in Governor Francis Potape says the decision is not for self-interest, but for Hela people to see a new system of governing and the delivery of services to the people.
If the entire Hela Provincial Assembly, if the entire Hela Provincial Executive Council is making this decision, then the people of Hela should see that there's something wrong and they want to fix it. If we don't fix it, they will not fix it because they're not leaders and they're not in a position to fix it.
Governor Potape says dismissed Governor Anderson Agiru will remain as the Hela regional member with all his planned projects to continue. Key points out of the 13 points leveled against Mr. Agiru are the long absences in the province, no assembly meetings and no collective decisions by the Provincial Executive Council in relation to matters of the province.
All decisions in the province must be made by the PC members and the assembly members. One man running of the show today comes to an end.
Mr. Potape has called on Mr. Agiru to put the interest of Hela people forward and allow him to improve where the Agiru-led government has failed to do. Jack Lapave Jr., National MTV News.
A woman leader in the autonomous region of Bougainville has called on all Papua New Guineans to reflect on the challenges and achievements for this year and make evaluations for the coming year. Helen Hakena from the Leitana Nehan Women's Development Agency says the gift of Christmas brings hope that should better 2016. Mrs. Hakena says the new year must be celebrated in its true meaning and with families. A call for youth to help their parents and be trouble-free in the coming year. Ley's Catholic Diocese Street Children Care Center has been a volunteer organization looking after children who roam the streets of Ley. Parish priest Father Arnold Schmidt says the Street Children Care Center has been providing food, water and clothing. The care center also runs a literacy program for the children.
This is the Catholic-run Children Care Center. For the last 10 years, homeless children get shelter here and they eat here every week. The parish also works to equip the less fortunate children with basic education programs all year long.
If a boy is more than 2.5 years on the street, either going around on the street all the time or sleeping in the street, then the battle is lost. He will be to 100%. He will become either a criminal or a drug body or an alcoholic.
Care Center provides a literacy program for a few girls and boys. It's to keep them away from crime. The Street Children Care Center continues to seek financial assistance from bigger business houses to help its operations. Colin Barilai, National MTV News, Ley.
General Secretary of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of PNG and Solomon Islands, Father Victor Roche, has voiced his concern on increased corruption and the continued tension between the disciplinary forces in PNG. He said corruption is on the increase in the highest places of government and non-government institutions. Father Roche said law and order problems will not stop until there is discipline among the disciplined forces. He congratulated the government for the performance in 2015 and urged the government to take church leaders as partners in the country's development by consulting them as to how crime and corruption could be solved. Seeing a bigger aircraft is something that some locals in Hela province will always cherish in their lives. They have never been to any big town or cities, but are just simple, ordinary Papua New Guineans who love their homeland. And they do appreciate opportunities available to make a living and also their own little piece of history, a story to be told in future. Our journalist Fabian Hakelitz caught up with two locals at Tari Airport.
I am at Tari in Hela province. The arrival of PNG Air's new ATR aircraft has caught many onlookers by surprise. Now, many said for the first time they had seen a bigger aircraft apart from the normal smaller aircrafts like Dash 8 that operates daily flights into Tari Airport. The big bird's arrival at Tari Airport was new to them because the eyes were used to seeing Dash 8s and other third-level aircraft that operate into this port. From the aircraft, I spotted the two men humbly sitting near the terminal, looking really excited. MTV approached the two men whose names were Ralo Kewara and Peter Langa, who had actually secured a spot near the terminal to get a closer look at the new aircraft. For Kewara, it was history making. Seeing a big new aircraft was totally new to him, and he was also fascinated by the aircraft's design.
Nami looking some ballistic punda nami gamna. Mi welcome you pla. Mi plan to be looking one pla ballistic or seven piri punda lo here. And me first time lo this pla PNG Air punda lo here lo Tari. And nu pla lo this pla plus ballis. No got one pla big pla ballis or seven piri punda lo here before.
Peter Langa, who frequents the airport, had already worked out the sitting and cargo capacity. With the big aircraft, it will cater for the passengers and baggage often offloaded. Both men thank PNG Air for upgrading the fleet and opening routes for locals who wish to travel within the country. The proven flight into Tari Airport now opens flight services into Tari Airport that will commence soon by the new ATR aircraft. In Tari, Hela Province, Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News.
Madang businessman Sir Peter Bata has praised the management of PNG Air for taking the bold step in rebranding the airline company and purchasing new ATR aircraft. Sir Peter said the strategy that was used marks a new era for the company in expanding its services to the people connecting people.
Sir Peter was personally present at the Madang airport to welcome PNG Air ATR proven flight. His presence was acknowledged by some of the airline managers, and he was later taken on a tour in the new aircraft. In an interview with MTV, Sir Peter said although the company's decision was tough, it was in its best interest and for travelling passengers.
I have nothing but praise for anyone taking initiative to develop aviation facilities and be able to create a situation where we're getting more tourism to Papua New Guinea. I hope you also continue on to do the service to Australia and elsewhere.
Madang, being the country's premier tourism destination, needs more airline competition that should resurrect the slowly dying tourism industry. With more airlines comes lower airfares and accommodation, meaning the market is accessible at a more affordable cost. Sir Peter thanked the company for opening routes that connect sectors like Madang with the Highlands and New Guinea Islands regions, rather than going through Port Moresby.
And I'm delighted that PNG Air have chosen to come to Madang. I hope that they also create the link in Papua New Guinea between the provinces.
The idea is to promote domestic tourism and market products. Sir Peter called on the national government to ensure tourism is developed in the provincial level and not only in cities like Port Moresby. Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina closed 20 points lower at $0.3325 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3250, $0.4424 Australian dollars, $0.2942 euro, and 38.86 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, cocoa, and copra closed the day lower. Palm oil, crude oil, and copper closed the day lower as well. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed at 193 points lower, the ASX closed at 60 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed 60 points lower. Here with Wednesday's news, we'll have more when we return. Don't go away. Welcome back to National MTV News. Turning overseas now, and a ceremony was held for one of the troops killed in an attack in Afghanistan last week. New York police detective Joseph Lemm's body was returned to the United States on Monday. Lemm was killed along with 5 other Americans, including the first openly gay servicewoman killed in action, Air Force Major Adriana Vodebrugen.
Joseph Lemm, a 15-year veteran of the NYPD who also volunteered in the U.S. Air National Guard, and 5 other Americans were killed in Afghanistan near Bagram Air Base on December 21 when a suicide bomber on a motorbike struck their patrol. It was the deadliest attack on U.S. forces this year. Lemm was on his 3rd deployment to war zones when he was killed, having been deployed twice to Afghanistan and once to Iraq.
Joseph Lemm rejoined the military after the events of 9/11, knowingly rejoining an Air National Guard combat deployable unit in the time of war.
Also killed in the attack, Sergeant Louis Bonacasa, who was serving with Lemm. Lorraine Gabina, MTV World News.
2 police officers have been cleared over the killing of 12-year-old Tamir Rice, who was fatally shot at a park last year. The shooting received widespread media attention as Rice had been waving around a toy gun when he was shot seconds after police officers arrived on the scene.
Tamir drew the replica gun.
A video exchange between a 911 dispatcher and the call that reported on Tamir Rice was played at the trial, revealing the confused impression the dispatcher had of the 12-year-old and the distorted information she ultimately passed on to the police.
What's the name of the park? Kudal? Kudal, yes. Guy keeps blowing in his arms. It's probably fake, but you know what? He's scared the shit out of me. What does he look like? has a camouflage shirt on. Is he black or white? Just a gray coat with black sleeves and gray pants. Is he black or white? I'm sorry. Is he black or white? Black.
Police shot Rice within seconds of arriving on the scene, acting in response to the dispatcher's reports of a gun-wielding suspect. Rice died the next day.
The evidence did not indicate criminal conduct by police. The police officers and the police department must live with the awful knowledge that their mistakes, however unintentional, led to the death of a 12-year-old boy. So will the police radio personnel, whose errors were substantial contributing factors to the tragic outcome. They passed along detailed information about the guy, but not the all-important facts that the 9/11 caller said the gunman was probably, quote, probably a juvenile, and the gun may not be real. Had the officers been aware of these qualifiers, the training officer who was driving might have approached the scene with less urgency.
Rice had acquired his fake gun from a friend who had bought it from a local supermarket. He had removed the orange safety tip from the gun, which may have alerted officers that the gun was a toy. But external factors were not the only cause of Rice's death, as explained by retired LAPD officer Cheryl Dorsey, who said the call was a high-priority Code 1 call, requiring officers to approach the scene from a distance, with caution, contrary to what happened on the fatal day.
This decision does not mean the legal system is finished with this case. In our country, we have parallel systems of justice, and the civil justice system may yet provide the Rice family with some of the accountability they deserve.
Radio, shots fired, male down, black male, maybe 20, black revolver, black handgun, I'm sending him up this way.
Judo Memafu, MTV World News.
The United States has congratulated South Korea and Japan for fixing their strained relations, mostly regarding the comfort women issue. Comfort women were the South Korean women forced to work in Japan's wartime brothels during World War II, causing a lasting strain on relations between the two East Asian nations up until now.
Comfort women have been a source of discord between Japan and South Korea for decades, with many simply unable to forgive Japan's sexual slavery of up to 200,000 South Korean women during World War II. Protests held every Wednesday by the remaining 46 former comfort women at the Japanese embassy in South Korea, demanding compensation and an apology from the Japanese government, reflect an undying anger that at their average ages of 89 does not show any signs of going away. The agreement involved an apology from the Japanese government and a 1 billion yen payment intended to provide care for former comfort women.
We welcome today's announcement by the governments of Japan and the Republic of Korea that they have reached an agreement regarding the very sensitive historical legacy issue of so-called comfort women. The two governments made clear that by implementing this agreement, they will, quote, finally and irreversibly, end quote, resolve this issue between the two governments. And we believe this agreement will promote healing and help improve relations between two of the United States' most important allies.
The former victims of sexual slavery have specific demands from the Japanese government, including acknowledgement of their wartime crimes and the entire truth behind their crimes of military sexual slavery. Previous reconciliation packages did not go down well with the women upon finding out that the compensatory payments were private and not from the Japanese government. This time around, the money will come directly from the Japanese government, meaning a fresh start for relations, referred to by Japanese and South Korean foreign ministers as the final and irreversible resolution. The breakthrough is positive news for the U.S., a key ally of the two Eastern Asian nations.
I'm aware, as we all are, that there are continued grievances, people who feel aggrieved, even with this agreement. That's really for the government of South Korea, working with its own citizens, those affected by these events, to work with them to address their concerns.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was seemingly adamant to reconcile, telling reporters that although Japan has apologized and expressed its remorse, future Japanese generations should not feel obliged to keep doing so. Michelle Bird, MTV World News.
NSL's Gigera Laitepo gets massive funding support and the Connie Tigers looking ahead. That's in Trukai Sports, coming up next.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Nationally owned company Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited has shown its support for the Gigera Laitepo United Football Club by sponsoring with a whopping 100,000 kina. The sponsorship will see Gigera Laitepo prepare well for the 2015-2016 Telecom National Soccer League season. Jaylee Sapias has more.
Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited General Manager for Government, Interface and Community Affairs Ian Maru presented a check of 100,000 kina to the Gigera Laitepo United FC executives today as Gigera prepares to head into round 2 of the Telecom National Soccer League competition. Maru said KPHL was happy to partner with a team that reflected the Hela gas which the company associated themselves with through the PNG LNG project. Gigera Laitepo United FC President Madiu Andrew thanked the KPHL and said the sponsorship was the first of its kind since the club entered the semi-professional soccer competition. Gigera, who lost 2 games, drew 2 and won only 1 game in the first part of the competition, places them in 4th place on the table with 5 points, just 2 points short of PKA Rapatona, who sits comfortably in 3rd. Jaylee Sapies, National MTV Sports.
The Connie Tigers Rugby League Club have formed a new working committee to help the team improve its image. The team has received bad publicity over the past 8 years since the sale of the Connie Tigers Oval.
The team has approached some politicians and people of high status to join the committee. The team has received positive feedback, with Secretary for Finance Dr. Ken Nagan and MVIL CEO Joe Wemin joining the committee. Dr. Nagan said the decision to be part of the committee is to help restore the club.
The committee is to bring back and restore the great potential of the club itself, to serve the community that we are a part of.
He also said they will be working to improve the standard of the game and the team.
A country of ours, we need to develop the game, and Connie Tigers Rugby League Club is a better place to do that.
Joe Wemin said with their involvement in the club, they will build a foundation for the club.
Now, for any organization, institution to survive into the future, you must build a formidable foundation.
Jaylee Sapies, National MTV Sports.
You're watching Trukai Sports. After the break, Telecom National Soccer League clubs prepare for season 2016.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To football, and the second part of the regular season of the Telecom National Soccer League will resume on the 9th of January 2016. And currently in the Southern Conference, Hekari United are 8 points clear at the top, followed by Irma FC. In the Northern, a little surprise with Lay City Dwellers, although local rivals Wellgrease a single point behind on second place.
The Northern Conference has proven a more difficult proposition for defending champions Lay City Dwellers. Draws against Wellgrease and Admiralty have slowed down their meteoric opening tally, scoring only 3 more goals after an 8-1 thrashing of Goroka Gosiha on match day 1. Wellgrease have been riding on familiarity. After sitting out last season, the team are now regrouping but have been far from convincing, with only 7 goals in 5 games. Madang FC have yet to reach their own form as well. A loss and 2 draws have set them back from reaching the second stage. And while there are still 5 more matches remaining, they will need 3 straight wins to put them in contention. Admiralty and Besta are still in contention, but wins would also be far more important, especially if they want to make that second spot. In the Southern Conference, Hekarias always are dominating and will need only 6 points from just 2 more matches to win to qualify a top spot for the second stage. That, however, leaves all the other 5 clubs battling it out for that crucial second spot, as currently Rapatona and Erema FC are level on 7 points, Gigira in 4th place 2 points behind them, and FC Port Moresby and Huawei PS further down. Having said that, however, only 3 points separate those 5 teams, and the next few matches in the new year will be interesting and much more important than ever before. Jeremy Mogi, National, MTV Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports for today. We will be back with the weather details after these messages.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
Now here's a look at your weather for the next 24 hours. First of all, in the southern region, Port Moresby, squally showers, a top temperature of 31 degrees, a minimum of 24. Daru, showers and rain, a top of 31, a low of 23. Kerema, cloudy with showers, a top of 32, a minimum of 24. Alotau, a maximum of 30, a minimum of 23 with squally showers. And Popondetta, showers and thunderstorms, a top temperature of 31, a minimum of 25. To the Momase region, cloudy with showers in Leh with a top temperature of 31 degrees. Wow, showers and rain, a top of 31, a low of 23. Madang, showers and thunderstorms, a top temperature of 30, a low of 24. Wewak, a few showers expected over the next 24 hours, a top of 32, a low of 24. Vanimo, a few showers, a top temperature of 31 degrees. To the New Guinea Islands region, Lorengau in Manus Province, showers and thunderstorms expected over the next 24 hours, a top temperature of 29, a low of 24. Kavieng in New Island Province, showers and thunderstorms, a top temperature of 30 degrees, a minimum of 24. Kokopo and Rabaul in East New Britain Province, showers and thunderstorms, a top of 29, a low of 23. Kimbe, West New Britain Province, showers and thunderstorms, a top of 31, a low of 23. And Buka in the autonomous region of Bougainville, cloudy and showers over the next 24 hours, a top temperature of 31 degrees, a low of 23. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, cloudy with showers, a top of 25, a low of 12. Goroka, cloudy and rain, a top of 26, a minimum of 13. Kundiawa, cloudy and rain, a top temperature of 26 degrees, a low of 13 degrees. Mendi, cloudy with rain, a top of 25 and a minimum temperature of 11 degrees. And Wabeg, cloudy with rain, a top temperature of 25 degrees, minimum temperature of 11 degrees over the next 24 hours. And I'll look at the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours, but first there is a strong wind warning. Strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of Papua New Guinea except for waters west of Cape Vogel to Finchafen. There is also a gale wind warning current for all coastal waters of Milne Bay Islands and Bougainville. Now waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island, with waters east of Hood Point to Samarai Island, and with waters of New Island to New Britain and Bougainville, and waters east of Finchafen including Vitia Strait, CSC Island to Long Island, seas 2.5 to 3 meters. Waters east of Kiwai Island to Kerema to Yule Island to Hood Point, and with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas 1.5 to 2.5 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, seas 3 to 4.5 meters. Waters of east of Samarai Island to Cape Vogel to Finchafen, seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. And waters west of Long Island to Madang, Bogia, Wewak to Aitape, Vanimo, and the northern PNG Indonesian border, seas 2 to 3 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas, and there is a warning in the Coral Sea. Seas rough with northwest to southwesterly winds at 25 to 34 knots. Solomon Sea, seas very rough with northwest to southwesterly winds at 34 to 48 knots. Bismarck Sea, seas moderate to rough with northwesterly winds at 20 to 34 knots. And the Pacific Ocean, seas very rough with northwest to westerly winds at 34 to 48 knots. And before we wrap things up, recapping our top stories for tonight. A new video of the Hanwha Bada shooting surfaces. Port Moresby 6 Mile market vendors speak of ordeal at the hands of rogue police, and government on inspection tour of all major infrastructure development around the country. And that's the news we have for you 2 sleeps away from 2016. On behalf of the entire MTV News team, I'm Mary Batulo. Pleasant viewing. Good night.